challenges are with these firms trying to integrate their technology into your system? And I'll start off with Craig.
Um, are you talking, Matt? Are you talking just from an SBIR perspective?
Yep, just
Okay.
SBIR technologies.
I would say for us, one of the biggest issues is not getting in early enough. Okay, so everybody who's familiar with the program knows there's a phase one effort where you're writing a proposal, and that takes a little bit of time, and that whole process between the proposal and things can be about 9 months, and then there's a phase two. Um, for a lot of people who aren't completely aware of the SBI program, it is massive as far as the number of projects and the number of companies that are involved. And if we at Lockheed, and I think Alf and Paul would both say the same thing for Raytheon and Boeing, but if we are unaware of what you're doing until the middle of your phase two, or even towards the end of your phase two, it making that transition happen is not impossible, but it's close to impossible. We've seen it happen, but transition and us helping with that maturity is a lot easier when we're aware early on in your phase one what you're doing. And I'll give you an example. We found out about a project which really met a need for us on F-35 with a very small diode that did met all the requirements we needed. It looked like it was going to solve a lot of problems. And to cut to the chase, they had already done everything in the design of it, and the requirement that we had for this to fit on a board was a one pigtail diode, and we needed a two pigtail diode. So it literally did not fit into the system that it was supposed to improve and make better, simply because they put two pigtails in where there should have been one, and it just wouldn't fit. If we'd have known about that early on in phase one, we could have said this needs to be just a single pigtail as opposed to two.
Thanks, Craig. Alf?
Um, well, yes, I agree with Craig. Getting involved early during phase one, and how that can work, should work, is like what's going on right now. For example, when our team at Raytheon sees the first pre-solicitation of SBIR, STTR, in this case it's 24.1, we'll go through and look at the entire list of topics and pull all kinds of engineers in to take a look at that and see where we might have interest in that topic, that development topic, or not, or a maybe. And any of the yeses or maybes get put into a big spreadsheet that gets sent out to any small business in our network. And there's hundreds of them in that network. And so the small businesses get a chance early on to see where Raytheon might be interested in hearing what they're planning to do for their technology development, their proposal. And then, like Craig said, if you reach out to us and reach out through uh, SBIR at rtx.com, there's a link. You can reach out to us, or you reach out through the supplier innovation team. We'll try to line you up with one or more subject matter experts who have an interest in what you might be proposing. And then there'll be a short discussion about what you intend to propose. And then if that all looks good, and it looks like we've got alignment at the front end, then we can generate a letter of support for your proposal, showing that we've looked at it and we think it might have merit down the line. So that's where the relationship can begin. I agree with Craig. If you link up with us later on in phase two, especially toward the end of phase two, it can be too late. A lot of the development work has been planned, and a lot of the configurations can be already in place and may or may not work. So I'll reserve time for everyone else, and I could tell a story or two about how things went well and how some things didn't go so well, but I'll reserve time for others.
All right. Paul, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to reiterate what Alf just said, is that's the process we use at Boeing as well. And We try to make sure that, I think one of our glitches in our system is making sure that we can evaluate everybody's information that comes in. So sometimes it's difficult, but our location that we typically like people to go to is Boeing SBIR at Boeing.com, to get into the system, and then also to become a part of the supplier chain by going into what I was saying earlier, which was, sorry, go back up here for a second, BoeingSuppliers.com. If you become a Boeing supplier, that helps a ton because you're already pre-vetted by the process of it, and it helps us. So that would be like a glitch to try to get in.
Thanks,
And
Paul. And
so,
a segue onto that was what I got recently asked by a lot of companies was they've looked at your site, they've looked at Boeing, they've looked at Lockheed, Raytheon, and all the primes, and we always tell them to get in early. And is there a central portal or a central site to where a young or a company that just got a phase one that can enter in, get into Lockheed or Raytheon and say, this is a technology I was just awarded, and then have it get looked at and get some kind of response back that, hey, we're looking at it, or this does fit or does not fit? Because the response that I got back was there's really like not a central place to where they can submit their technology that they think is of interest.
So for Lockheed, on our website, on just the Lockheed public website, you can drill down through that to go to our small business, and there is an SBIR link to that where you can put a quad chart that goes to a lady named Arissa D. Buchan. She actually helps me manage the program on the small business side, and that quad chart, if you're looking at a particular topic, goes out to all of our SBR leads. So we have, and Alf and Paul are probably going to want to hit me, but I say this every time that we the three of us talk together is, the best thing you can do is understand how Alf's company is organized, how Paul's company is organized, and how my company is organized, because our companies are so large that an SBIRs are always targeted for a very specific platform or very specific need. And all of our companies have separate organizations under that corporation that speaks just to aircraft, or speaks just to ships, or speaks just to satellites. So best understand how you know who you're dealing with. And for us, I'll put this in the chat, but if you want to get if you want to get on our list, I think I saw somebody's question earlier at lmco.com. So I think I saw somebody's question about how to get on our list of interested,
Gotcha, thanks.
Interested topics.
Hi, Terrell.
Hey, Terrell. Just send an email to Arissa D. Buchan and say Arissa D. Buchan at lmco.com and say, I would like to be on your distribution list for which SBR topics you're listed in. And she can set you up to be on that distribution list. I'll go ahead and let Terrell introduce himself.
Terrell?
Yes, everyone. I'm Terrell Reed. Sorry for the slight technical difficulties. Happy to be joining today. I come from Northrop Grumman at the corporate level. I manage our supply diversity programs, which SBIR falls under that umbrella. So I've done this before with the gentleman that you see today. So we're excited to talk to you all, engage you all in a topic that is near and dear to our heart, which is SBIR. So happy to be joining today.
Thank you, Terrell. And the question that I just posed to the team was that I was asked recently a lot from many firms on. We always tell them that they need to get in early and engage early with their SBIRs. But is there a central spot within your organization on your site that they can submit their technology and then get looked at and then get some kind of response back, whether it's a need or not a need or.
Yes, absolutely. So on our northofgrumman.com site, you can find our SIBR page under suppliers, the suppliers link, and that'll enable you to connect with us through the website. We have a template, a PowerPoint template that you can fill out with information, the background information about your SIBR. And then you would be connected to our SIBR email box, which is sbir@ngc.com. So that would be the mailbox that we would engage you through, and you can access that from the website. So all of our R&D leaders in our particular sectors have access to that mailbox. And when we get requests incoming, we receive them and vet them and interact with the different SIBR firms that way.
All right. Alf or Paul, go ahead, Alf.
Yeah, I'd like to just add one other thing. Just so we also have a at Raytheon, you can come in through our supplier portal as well, and it'll link you to sbir@rtx.com, and that's the way to get directly to our supplier innovation team. And Jonathan Hampton is our intrepid leader of that team, and just like Terrell and my other colleagues have mentioned, there's a blank template, which is basically like a quad chart, and you fill out some things in there that talks generally about what your approach is, what your approach would be for the technology, and that allows Jonathan and his supplier innovation teammates to find who the right subject matter experts are, or who the right people are to get on a quick phone call with your company and talk about where you think you want to go on the proposal and where it might or might not fit in where Raytheon is needing that technology. And then, as I said before earlier, if that all goes well, then a letter of support can be put together that could be part of your proposal, and there'll be a person who co-signs that letter who will become that champion for your technology going forward. And if you win the phase one, the other thing that I'm not getting ahead of Matt on questions. The other thing that's not done often enough is when companies win a phase one, a lot of times they forget to reach back out and say, "Hey, we won." and then if you do that, then you can start that relationship that Craig mentioned at the beginning. You can start that initial relationship of getting to know each other, where this is going.
And that's what's really critical, because especially if it's going to be integrated by the prime, is that you really want to work with them on how that integration, because they're probably going to give you the stick and rudder to how you're going to proceed in your phase two. So at least you're doing it correctly and not doing it where it's just going to create extra work. And that, I think Craig mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, because the whole goal of SBR, we could say there's all these like small goals leading to something eventual, but every one of us sees SBR success as a technology that transitions to a program of record, a platform that benefits both us and our customers. Either lowering a cost, making something more safe, helping in the supply chain. That's what the definition of SBR success is. But in order to get there, I have people call me all the time that says, "I want to do a phase 3 with you guys." Well, you don't just jump into a phase 3, right? You got to have a lot of successes along the way. And those successes can be technical, but they can also absolutely be business related successes. And I will go back to, for all four of us, for myself, Terrell, Alf, and Paul, all of us, the alignment with the right person and the right area within our companies is, you cannot imagine how important that is.
Paul?
Hey, Paul, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know. I needed to try to find my mouse. My screens are really large here. If you notice, I'm like going like this because all the screens around me are just like gigantic TVs, so I don't have to wear glasses as much. I was going to say the same thing that Alf kind of commented about again. We do the same kind of process where within Boeing, we have our list. We look through it. The small businesses phase one, sometimes they don't tell us they won their awards. I'm like right now going through our list of all the letters of interest that we created for the folks for phase ones and finding out, over the years, how many of them actually were, won. And somebody actually contacted me from the last Tech Connect that we had, mentioned, oh, by the way, the letter of interest, like I was on a panel that reviewed his technology, and I said, wow, that's a great technology. I wrote him a letter of interest because I thought it's a good match for what our company does. And now he's going to be awarded a $1.2 million phase two contract. That's how it works. You just got to get to the right person in the company that will say, wow, that's a technology that our company needs, and work with a person. If you've got a person in the company, work with that person. If it's somebody in Boeing already, or I'm sure same thing with you guys as well, you got to work with us. And we don't have a budget to work with companies. It's just part of our jobs, right? We as a engineer who wants to know what is the state of the art going on, I want to see the small businesses that are coming up with ideas. I want to look around everywhere that I can possibly look to find something that meets my need or piques my interest, one or the other, right? So you just have to get a good contact. One of the things that I was in the government meetings the other day, yesterday, I think it was, where they were commenting, the government saying, hey, you got to know who you need to contact within an organization. And it's your job to figure it out. And I know that, I can't remember if it was you, Craig, that said it last time we had one of these sessions, that you really need to look at our company does a lot. So does each of these other gentlemen's companies too. So you have to look where to go and how you can benefit us and sell us. And then our engineers are willing to work with you. So, okay.
Thanks, Paul. I like to pivot to something that's coming down the pike in CMMC 2.0, which is just getting released. I think it'll be formally released. I don't know if it was going to be towards the end of the calendar year, but I think it might roll into fiscal year 25. And it imposes requirements on phase two. So far, it looks like phase ones are going to be just a self-assessment, but phase twos are going to be a little bit more in depth, which there's a cost associated with that. But my question is, if a company ends up working with one of you gentlemen or a prime, would you require them to be CMMC certified?
So I can take that to start. So it depends. So we do have a requirement where we are onboarding new suppliers that are not CMMC compliant. However, for SBIR specifically, to begin the interchange and the conversation and the relationship with us, I would say the answer is no. Really, for SBIR, the leading thing at this point when we promote that early engagement is the technology and how that fits into our roadmap, finding a advocate within Northrop Grumman to kind of do the pull of the technology to get the collaboration going. And if CMMC is needed down the line, then we can kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But to be onboarded as a supplier, we do require CMMC, but to engage us for SBIR, we do not.
Yeah, I second what Terrell just said. That again, remember the difference between SBIR is a innovative program that's looking at new technologies that could eventually lead to you being a supplier, right? So a lot of those requirements, like the one Matt mentioned, or a lot of those stipulations that for any of us to be in our supply chain that you would need to meet are probably more stringent than to us, any of the four of us, to work with you on an SBIR project.
Okay.
Concur.
Paul?
Yeah, same. I concur with everybody.
Okay. Looking at some questions here. I can't really see them all.
Yeah, I'm trying to run through all of them myself at the same time and take notes.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there.
Yeah,
So
my screen's not big enough to kind of see. I know we've had a lot of questions.
I
on
know.
this.
So I do have another question. If a company is lucky enough to get backed by the prime, and then their technology basically is chosen to be integrated by the prime, and that company wants to manufacture their technology and not go out and have it done. Does Lockheed or anybody on this panel do they offer assistance in mentoring that manufacturing or anything like that, or is that left up to that firm to try to figure that out? I mean, it's a technology that the prime wants, but that small business also wants to be the.
So a
They
couple
also
things,
want to make
just
it.
real quick. I think all of us would say yes, we do offer some type of mentoring. I think the preferred, again, every situation is going to be completely different, but there's always the opportunity that you can license that technology to a manufacturing company.
Right.
For us, that would be the quickest answer. We've definitely done that in the past. But we've also had successful SBIRs that led to a widget that company was not a manufacturing company, right? But we worked with them. I say we worked with them. One of our groups that does manufacturing technology worked with them, and they actually did a spin-off company to just do manufacturing, and it's been somewhat successful.
Yeah,
So,
I would just add to what Craig said. Sometimes the small business develops the technology, and then there wants to be a separate manufacturing activity to support that growth of that nugget. Sometimes a separate company gets stood up to do the actual manufacturing and focus on that. And the original small business stays in their lane, their technology lane, their technology maturation lane. And there's a company we're also working with at Raytheon that's doing that right now. It's in happens to be in very specialized batteries. That's where that's being done. And I guess the key part of making that work is trust and relationship, just being honest and communicating, just really transparent and communicating between all the parties, just really being straight up and toward that common goal, of making it successful, and go through all the trials and tribulations in the path ahead for that.
Paul, any comments?
I agree with what they're saying, so I'm just going to default to Terrell.
Terrell?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's said. In terms of the mentoring, I'll plug this because I also manage our mentor protege. So ideally, in a perfect world, we could engage you in a SIBR and a mentor protege. That's like the trifecta. So I would say to advance the mentoring aspect even more, it depends on what your company profile is, but some combination of that is would be great.
Real quick, I forgot to add that then about the mentor protege. I know that the SIBR program is asking us as primes to try to engage more with SBIR awardees in protege, mentor protege. And so our company actually is now trying to say, hey, we're going to go after each of the agencies and try to come up with a small business SBIR potentially SBIR company to mentor. So I think we're all getting the same feedback from the government.
Right.
So, hey, put together this mentor protege.
Right.
I
And
think
that's
that
always, and that's always been a challenge for all the small firms, is that, you know, they need that mentoring, and it seems like it's very difficult to get that from the primes unless they're seriously want to work with you. And there was really no avenue for them to actually apply for it. Hey, this is the widget that I have, and also I would like to see if I can apply for the mentor protege. But it's good to see that everyone's being proactive and pushing it out there, that you're now offering it more. There was a question on there about CMMC and NIST 1-800-7 or 171. Is it acceptable, with the exception to replace CMMC? NIST 800-171 it will be part of the CMMC 2.0. They've added a few questions on that for the 2.0. So for if you are going to get an SBIR award, no, it'll be CMMC 2.0 certified. I don't know, like I said, what the Alphen company have said about their requirement for CMMC, but ultimately, if you're going to play in the SBIR world, when you get to the phase 2, it's definitely going to require a level 2 certification, which we are trying to proactively work this. And I know it's problematic for a lot of small companies, very small companies. It's just very, it could be very costly, but we are actively working it for everyone. Let's see.
It's hard keeping up with all the chat questions here. I'm having a real. I apologize.
Yeah, I saw a question earlier that asked me what kind of conditioner I use. I just want to say the same one as Terrell and Paul.
So let me see. So we got to that question. And again, so that my rule of thumb is I don't give out phone numbers to PMs or to like Craig and them. I'll let them do that. I won't personally do it. If they want to give their personal email or personal phone, then they will in there, but I won't do that.
Yeah, someone just asked me for my email. I put it in the chat. I will let you know, however, all 4 of us are right in the middle of the 0.1 solicitation and getting quite a few emails every day. So if we don't get back to you really quick until probably about February 5th, all of us, this is our busiest time of the year because the 0.1 solicitation is always very large and it's pretty big to deal with.
So another question, IRAD. Is there? I know it's it can be very difficult for an SBIR company to get prime IRAD. Is there a key to it? Is there a selection criteria, or what determines that Lockheed will give IRAD, not in kind, but actual IRAD to the SBIR firm?
Say that again, Matt. I was reading the chats.
So a question was receiving IRAD from the primes, not in kind, but actual IRAD going to. Is there a process for them to ask for it? Is there a criteria that they have to fall under? Or is it just because you have so little of it, is that you're only going to pick the best of the best?
Since we're all friends here, the politically correct answer for me to say, and probably for all of us would be, yes, that's a viable option. The reality of it is there's so little of it. You see people within our companies that hold IRAD pretty close to the vest, and they do subcontract, under an IRAD. Obviously, there's IRAD that we have people work on That's a little bit out of my swim lane. How you go after it, I think the people who the engineers and scientists at Lockheed who work specific IRAD programs know who those are. But I will say a lot of these small businesses, small technical companies that are currently working on our IRADs, a lot of those are companies they've met through working with SBIR. So
Mhm.
the first relationship can definitely lead to the second. I don't think there's many companies that come in cold that say, "Boy, we would like to subcontract on one of your IRADs." That I'm sure there's situations where it does happen, but I don't know how often.
Yeah, that very short addition. I'll
Yeah,
add to
I
that.
agree.
Go ahead, Terrell.
No, I was going to just agree, but I really think it comes down to the alignment in that area. We do have IRAD teams that do work with cyber firms, and I try to stay connected to those teams because we also kind of share and collaborate on some of our technology scouting. And they may have a IRAD, maybe doing the IRAD, may meet a small company that they're interested in working with or developing this idea with, and they'll engage me to say, hey, where does this technology idea kind of fit in the cyber swim lanes, and can you help us and this small business go after a cyber that aligns with the work, to just try to kind of tie it all back together. So I agree with what Craig said, but I think it really comes down to how everything aligns in that particular technology.
All right.
I
I
saw,
have a question.
so Cam Carnegie has asked this question a couple times, and I
Yeah.
think this would be true for any of us. And Matt, you may know this better than any of us, but I believe if you work for a prime contractor, regardless of in what area, and Cam, if I'm messing up your question, but whether it's Boeing or Lockheed or Northrop or Raytheon, if you work for a prime contractor, you are not eligible to receive SBR award.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you currently work, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yes.
I mean, if you're currently
start a small
right,
business.
because you have to qualify as an SBR firm.
Yeah, because
Right.
he says I work at Boeing Commercial PD. I'm not sure what PD
Well,
is.
I'm guessing it's product development. That's our commercial side of the world. But I think what he might be actually saying is if he did something and he wants to start a spin-off company to do something. I can't imagine you can't do it within Boeing, but
No.
I do know that there are the possibilities of people who are developing as a small business, especially if I won't say anything about Boeing's current situation, but people might want to have something as a backup in the future, a small business that they're starting to develop. And I think that might be more what he's referring to, but I don't know.
So Cam, your follow-up question, you said so I would have to quit and own company. There are
Right.
probably situations that you would, but the conflict of interest
Interest.
stuff that you would have to go through would
Right.
probably be so many hurdles. I doubt I doubt you would ever be allowed to do that. So the answer to your question is probably yeah. You would have to no longer be affiliated with a prime in order
Right.
to win SBR funding.
Right.
So
And I do know that some of our subsidiaries that we have that were small businesses, they're still considered small businesses, and they get to. And that was one of the things that I remember seeing and hearing in the conference so far. You retain your IP as a small business, even if you get put in. If a big company purchases you, like Boeing has done, you still retain your IP as a small business in that. I don't know how that exactly works, but you retain it.
So we got a question where they were asking, is there one of the defense primes that works on base for, looks like it was military construction, whether Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop, or Lockheed have any kind of area within that organization that does that. And I'm assuming that there's some area, within one of your companies that does that on.
Hey, I
certain
bet all
products.
4 of us do. I'm not aware
Right.
of it, but I would bet
It's large.
yes.
Can a small business firm with prior phase 1 or phase 2 SBIRs go directly to phase 3 with a prime? So phase 3 is non-SBIR dollars. You can get awarded funding from the prime and assert your SBR data rights. Typically, it comes from DoD source where they're claiming their phase 3, and then you have your data rights. I know that Lockheed has contacted straight to the small firms. I'm sure Alpha has. I'm sure all of them have.
Yeah, please know none of us, none of the 4 of us have a bucket of money or a program that says phase 3 funding, right? It just there's not a thing. All phase 3 funding, like Matt said, really for anyone who is in a small business, that's just called a small business contract, right? So the answer to the question is yes, but but it would again have to go through the whole process of finding a champion, proving that the technology is going to be beneficial, and integrating into a thing. There's, like I said earlier, if we find out at the end of your phase 2 that you had a successful technology and it works and it does what it says it's going to do, are we going to fund it for a phase 3? Probably not. If we're just finding out at the end of the phase 2
Right.
that we don't just go, oh, I'm going to fund that technology. None of us work for companies that are in the R&D business, right? We do R&D like we talked about IRAD, but all of us work for companies that build products, right? So we don't have big pockets of R&D. We have big pockets of large platforms. So if you can help us and benefit those platforms, and it buys its way onto a plane or a tank or a satellite, then yes, we would contract with you. But again, it would not be called a phase 3 with us. It would just be called a small business contract.
Right. And I wanted to comment that Boeing, when it comes to phase 3, a lot of times we don't even know if a phase 2 SBIR technology
Right.
is being used on any of our platforms even, because that's not something that I think the government specifically said they don't like letting everybody on the planet know, because it's kept like internal, because it's proprietary information to either the government or to their contract vehicles. But what I was going to say though about phase 3 is when you're an SBIR company and you're going along and you're becoming a actual business, small business, using SBIR, but not necessarily on that specific topic. Boeing does do a lot of, like I keep citing stuff each year for 2022. I don't have the 23 data yet, but Boeing had 30 of the SBIR award winners of 2022. 30 of those companies are companies that are supplier with contracts at Boeing. So SBIR develops your company, it develops your technology, but it also develops your company. And your goal should be, in my mind, I want my company to be successful, not necessarily just one technology, the company, and become part of the supply chain. So, and like I said, 20 and they're like multi-million-dollar contracts that we have with them.
Yeah. So we have a lot of questions, and another question on basically a startup trying to work with a prime. What are the pain points specifically with a startup server company? What pain points do you guys see with that?
I think pain points is a strong way to say it. I think that there are some things that we encourage those type of companies to do when they engage us, but it would be just like any other company with the cyber or technology.
Right.
You know, I would encourage, you know, them to, you know, really do your homework, like find out what we do, where your technology, where do you think your technology would fit into our sectors and division and our programs and the type of work that we do. We kind of do that early homework to help us. And you have a vision for the collaboration and share that with us, and we can massage it as we go along. But I feel like, you know, have a vision for where you want to go. Share with us, you know, and like I think Paul said earlier, if you have already worked with someone at Northrop Grumman or any of these companies, you utilize them and help, you know, find a champion and an advocate for that vision that you have for the collaboration that you're seeking for that technology, and help us and get, you know, help engage us in that vision, to ultimately get to.
I have a real quick add to that too. One of the things, like I said in the previous conference portion of this with the government side, they're there to tell you what programs they think your technology goes to, because they're the ones awarding you it, right? So you really, if you really want to get into a prime, you should ask point blank to the government, where do you think this tech, you know, you should have already done your homework. You got to the right government. You got an award. You talk with the government. They have tons of programs available on their end to help you decide where the best fit is for your technology. But like Terrell said, also look at the companies yourself, because it's your business. You want to promote your business, but the government is there to help you as well. And there's a lot of agencies, I think, that they were saying, that are also available now to help you figure out what companies will best be for you, right? Your product best serves. Is it Raytheon? Is it Northrop Grumman? Is it Boeing? Is it Lockheed?
Okay, thank you. Well, the questions are coming in so quick. I'm having a hard time keeping up with them. Let's see, my company is already a high-tech embedded software firmware product with R&D supplier to L3Harris. How can we enter such a high-tech embedded software firmware product R&D suppliers partnership with all of your companies? So they're already working with L3Harris embedded with software firmware product for R&D. They're wondering how they can work with you guys. Anyone want to take that one? Or is it a tough one?
I mean, that's
very
kind
specific.
of outside. That's definitely outside of SBIR. I think that you would probably need to go through our procurement areas. Again, keep in mind, SBIR is not a procurement program, right? It doesn't matter at the end of a phase 2 if you say, here are 3 widgets that work perfectly. We're not going to say we're going to buy that, right? SBIR is an innovation R&D program, and the purpose of it, and the 4 of us work in the space where once those SBIR, you know, somebody asked a question earlier about phase 3s, is once it goes to that phase 3 or small business contract, the 4 of us are going back and starting with working with phase 1s and phase 2s.
Right.
I've already lost who asked that question. But that would be more a question and dealing with each of our small business procurement folks.
And you know, and so that brings up another question, because our audience is full of SBIR and non-SBIR.
Yeah, sure.
We've been talking a lot about submit your phase 1, go to the Prime portal and submit it. But what if it's a non-SBIR company and they have a technology? Can they submit to that portal too? So it's a small company that has never gotten a SBIR, but they are working on system, can they go through that same portal, or is it only for SBIRs?
It's a good question. I mean, for the link that I sent out earlier, I don't have any examples on hand, but because of Arissa Buchan, the person who I work with in small business, she is in that team that does small business procurement. So, and I think Terrell probably works in that area as well. So she would have access to that. If you said, this is not necessarily SBIR, but this is small, this is from something for small business procurement. Just because of who has access to that, then at Lockheed, yes, you could. The SBR folks aren't going to be the people that review it, though.
Right. So there's no
Yeah.
separate link for non-SBIR technology.
No, there definitely is. There all
is.
four of us. Yeah, there definitely is. All four of us have supplier procurement links. I just don't know. I don't work in that area. I can find them, but I don't know what they are.
Okay.
Yeah, in our org,
in a case
it would be strategic sourcing. You could probably approach strategic sourcing through our website, and there's a link I'll put in here to reach out there.
Put Lockheed's too in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, sure, Craig.
And for Northrop Grumman, our actual general supply chain portal, it asks about SIBRs, and that questionnaire that you fill out to register in that portal as well. So there's quite a bit of interchange, and we also have, as with the other companies that are here, a like direct investment ventures and partnership aspect too. And so in terms of technology scouting, I interface with those guys too. They're looking at these technologies from a different lens, but we also definitely overlap with some of the technologies and the companies that we come across, and we share those.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment that Boeing definitely has, unfortunately, doesn't have an SBIR link in our supplier location that I gave you guys. That is strictly where the small business stuff goes in. Not just small business, all suppliers go through that, but small business, there's a supplier diversity link that addresses from that perspective and not SBIR. We're trying to get an SBIR link added to ours because right now, any small business that comes in needs to be, in our view, like, oh yeah, we want to vet you, decide whether or not your products that you have are worthwhile, and then become part of our supplier chain. So it's our portal that I gave you, it's the boengsuppliers.com. That one is specifically for small businesses. It's not just SBIR. Does that make sense? And then I do want to also comment, I heard Terrell say that we also have a group of folks that do financing of projects in some capacity. We had like, let's see how many there are now. I think there's like 10 or 12 small businesses that had SBIR contracts that it's part of our Boeing Applied Innovation portfolio companies where we actually provide funding at a certain level, certain criteria, we don't necessarily take ownership of your products, but it's a Boeing capability, a funding source that you might be interested. And I will put the link of the guy that we typically give his email out as the person, if you're a small business and you want to potentially get money, not through the SBIR program, although there are some SBIR folks that are part of it.
So do all of your website accesses, do they give you like different departments that they can access? Like the procurement department, the supplier chain department? We're getting a lot of questions on, can I get your company's procurement department contact? I don't know if you guys do that or don't do that, or is that something that's way
I don't
down
even
the
know
road
our,
that's addressed later?
I don't know our companies other than BoeingSuppliers.com. I don't know any individuals.
Yeah, I didn't think you guys did, but and let's see, we got a quote from Israq giving a plug for the Apex Accelerator, saying that they can assist the small businesses with the Service Center application and registration process at no cost. Also help identify government Service Center programs that is good fit for the technology. Let's see.
Yeah, Matt, there was a earlier question a long time ago about a postdoc, a non-citizen postdoc way up there.
I can't even get access to the ones that are way up. I don't know how to scroll.
Oh,
scroll up.
so I think the question was, if you're a postdoc and you're not a citizen, non-citizen, is that going to be a barrier? And I guess it depends. The short answer to that is it depends. I know the government, all of us in this community, this SBR community, want to see more and more people come into the space and get a more diverse, kind of cool thing going on here in America. So if you're not a citizen, but you're at least a U.S. person, then you wouldn't be barred initially, depending on the way that SBR topic is written. Sometimes some of the topics are going to require citizenship in the phase 2. If you're successful, it would likely go classified. So so the short answer to that question was it depends, but
that being said, as far as the company goes, SBR is a domestic only program.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to be a valid green card holder, all that. So, I mean, you have to be vetted properly. And all of those are on the SBR.gov site. They're very easy to actually read. It gives all the qualifications of every individual all the way down to the PI. And it isn't hard. So you can look there.
So there's a good question, Matt. It says, one of you gentlemen, and he says that he uses that term very lightly, mentioned that you are really busy right now with the latest SBR announcements. Why is the large prime involved with SBR? We could probably take another whole hour on that.
Yes.
But, all of us would say, because I get this question a lot from people who we've never talked to. Obviously, none of us can be awarded SBIR funding or apply for an SBIR project. However, the reason that we do this is because we want to, and we need to be involved with the SBIR processes, because all of those technologies, or I wouldn't say all of them, a good majority of those technologies, the intent is they benefit a program that we're involved with, right? So if you apply for an SBIR technology and you do your phase 1 and you do your phase 2, that technology has to transition somewhere, right? It may transition directly to a service. It may transition directly to the Navy or the Army or the Air Force, but the majority of the time, it's going to transition to a platform that we make, right? So that's why we're involved in the SBR program.
If I can just add to that. So the primes are not part of the development of the phase 1s. They have no part of that. What they do, I know what Lockheed does, what Raytheon does, what Boeing does, is they send not only to me, but to the other agencies. I know Navy gets them, and I'm pretty sure Air Force gets them, is they send them a list after every call. They send them a list of every SBIR topic that they have interest in. And then what happens internally within that SBIR program is that list is then broken down into the technology area and then sent to the prospective technology group that actually put that topic out, saying, hey, Lockheed or Raytheon or Boeing, they're interested in these technology areas. They're interested in this technology, and then we use that so we can actually track it. So now we know that we got the prime tracking it. So that this is when the onus is on you. Is that if you get awarded a phase one, try to get back in contact with your prime that you think is interested. Tell them that you were awarded one. Get that level of, or get that LOS, which beefs up that phase two. But then you're also on the prime's radar, so they like what you're doing. So again, it's twofold. We're tracking it, i.e., being the program. We're filtering it out to the TPOC, to that agency that sponsors, says, hey, Lockheed or Raytheon is actually watching this, which is good. And then we hope that the company then backs up and then re-engages with the prime. But just a foot stomp is that the primes had nothing to do with the topic development. They just look at what's coming out and run it through their actual process, and then they can say, this is what we're interested in, and this is what we're following.
No, we do get asked by the program offices of what our needs are.
Yes.
Those can get folded into eventual topics.
Yeah, they could. Again, and it's like everyone else who just gets.
But we can't write a topic.
Right. Exactly. Let's see what else.
Yeah, what Craig said is true in major programs where we know we have technology gaps or issues or things that we want to address that are early on. Sometimes we get solicited for our thoughts and our inputs, but we don't write topics. We're not the government.
Okay, I'm trying to go through a lot of very good questions in there.
Yeah, a lot of excellent questions here. Hey Matt, is there with our SBA America's Seed Fund team, are they able to capture like a
yes? So I'm
all?
assuming that we're being moderated and we're being looked at. So I'm assuming that all these questions are being captured, which then if it's going to a specific prime, I'm going to make the assumption that they will forward you these questions so you can later answer.
Okay. Thanks.
I know that you're trying to answer them all, but that's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are just teaming. You should get SBA or DoD money to have this type of discussion more often. This is terrific. We do have this, Molly. We do have this talk a lot. Almost at every Tech Connect, which happens twice a year. This event here, which is this is the first time I think that it's been on this one. So right now I'm seeing it more and more. And I'll ask the panels, but I'm sure that you're seeing it, that these prime exchanges between the SBIR and non-SBIR small companies is happening quite frequently, like 3-4 times a year. So we're trying to get the word out and trying to afford you the opportunity to ask these questions to the primes, but it does happen a lot, and it will happen more.
And Molly, even though you can't tell this, Paul, Alf, Terrell, and myself all live in the same house. We call it the SBI house. So we're all in different rooms of the same house. So kind of like the Heisman house that you see, we live in the SBR house. So you can just come visit.
Yeah, Molly, it's great when we over the years that we've been doing these sort of things. Usually it's in person. it's Matt Williams has advocated for it to be more of a conversation like this, not a bunch of slides from us and like a few questions at the end. So we've actually, thanks to Matt, we've actually changed the way this format. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Molly.
Question
And
from
Phil.
Sarvesh that said, and this is a probably easy question to answer. Says my company NextMed is planning to develop commercial high-tech product software and hardware. How can I find a matching SBR topic? You know, if you know where to go to the most recent release, sbr.gov, you can get there, which the fine folks at the SBA host that site. You can go through and just like we do, I think there's 186 topics in the most recent release. Just go through them one by one. They're grouped by services and say, do I have a solution for this topic? Do I have a solution for this topic? Obviously you can kind of just look at just the topic and go through those pretty quick, Sarvesh, and figure out if you have a one that matches one of those topics.
And I just realized too, NASA just put out their topics. So I don't know if you guys are also the ones do that in your organizations that do NASA ones, but they just came out. So we're going to have another list coming out shortly.
And there are also open topic solicitations as well, where you would, you could engage whatever DoD agency with your technology and see what value they see in it.
And that's coming out. So the Air Force does a lot of open topics, but Congress mandated us in the 22 reauthorization that every agency hold the one open topic annually, and we do. So look for those. Those get to be pretty broad and pretty open, and it covers a lot.
Yeah, one of the gifts that COVID gave us for the folks that in our business that work SBR collaboration is the solicitations used to be very limited to 3 releases a year, 3 sometimes 4 releases a year, because COVID at some point there was a push to solve some of the issues that COVID brought on, not just with health but with supply chain and that kind of stuff. And during the 2020 era, 2020, 2021, the DoD said, you know what, you can release these whenever they come out. We need to get these out as soon as possible. You don't have to wait for a release. So because of that, today we still have 3 releases a year, 3 main releases a year. But like Matt said, or Terrell, there's releases coming out every 40 days. There's probably 2 or 3 that come out from DARPA, and then 6 that come out from the Army special topics. So keep an eye out for those of you that are trying to match topics with your technology, because again, it's not just the ones that come out in December, April, and August. There's special topics coming out all throughout the year.
Yeah. Another question about the BAA. Some ask for a 3-page white paper, some are 10 to 30. We try to keep it down to 15 pages. Again, we have the overarching BAA guidelines, but the specific agencies issue their own requirements within the BAA. So the amount of data that they are requesting, I know it is a burden on some, and we're constantly trying to streamline the process of submitting the technical papers, because I do know that a 10 to 30 page technical paper can be quite difficult. But again, all of the agencies, we talk monthly on how we can streamline it. We can make the process streamlined, but you have to keep in mind is that TPOC that sponsored that effort, that is looking for that answer, some of it might require 10 to 30 pages of answers, and some of it might not. But our ultimate goal is to definitely streamline it, because the more streamlined it is, the faster we can get it through the due diligence process and then run through everything else, so we can still maintain our contracting average. So it's constantly being worked and constantly being looked at. A lot of them in here are looking to tag up with you personally. They have some technologies that they would like to excuse me, talk to you about. I will let you answer that. I'm not going to answer that for them. And see, to be honest, my biggest issue is trying to shoehorn ML developers into phase one budget while not ejecting the actual innovation from the proposal. Okay. How do we find out about your open topic each year? Again, we just go to our website and we post the open topics. We post them for all of DoD. We don't post them throughout the year, but we try to because they might have them at different times, along with our annual call, which is open all year. But the open call, there'll be a schedule. So if you go to the OSD website, it lists the schedule for all of DoD on the topics coming out. Maybe one more domain specific question for all the panelists. What is your company's interest in lunar infrastructure and lunar economy?
I just dropped a reply. I didn't answer, but the Space Force, Space Force SBRs might start to get at that, or NASA maybe, or NASA. I don't know.
Yeah, our LM space. So again, like I said earlier, all of our companies have business areas, business units, sectors, and we call them different things. But all of us, I believe, have a interest in lunar economy and those types of things. We probably don't have to go into what each individually are doing. But anytime we talk about lunar habitats, the challenges, and that is ripe for a lot of innovation, just dealing with the environments and dealing with what can be done, and why we would seek out those missions. But the basic answer, general, is Raytheon, Northrop, Boeing, and Lockheed are all have an interest in those topics.
So we have 3 minutes left. Let me see here. Let's see, space currently by Lockheed. Let's see. Can you comment on your interest in
So Molly,
materials?
there's no prejudice, Molly, on size of the companies.
Yes.
I answered you.
Thank you.
I answered you, Molly.
From Marianne, can you comment on your interest in critical materials and their processing? So material development. And again, what Craig said is that's you're getting into the development side of the house, which is really not. They don't have the big R&D budget for it. It's more into their products getting built and then getting integrated. If I'm not speaking out of school there. Craig, Alf, Paul.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to answer somebody's question. Sorry. Say again.
So they were talking about investing in new materials and developing new materials. Again, you guys don't typically do that, right? I mean, is this something that you typically? It's a totally separate area.
I mean, Yeah, advanced materials is a definitely like a key part of our supply chain, particularly in aeronautic systems, et cetera. Um, so yes, we have a level of interest in that. I would just, say engage us. I know for me, a part of my is, kind of responsibilities is going back and finding the connections in terms of certain technology areas with what we scout versus the actual activity that's going on within Northrop Grumman. So very possible I would need more information to go off and, make some contacts and have those conversations.
Yeah, and Terrell's answer is a good solid one. So at Raytheon, we do follow new materials development, and there's folks who are materials experts who are technology area leads. We call them TALs, and materials is one of those areas, of course. And many times there's a new material development that may come through the SBIR or STTR program that's of great interest to them, and we will take interest early on in the materials if it fits a particular niche or a particular interest area that we could see coming anywhere from. There's all kinds of materials. Anything from, it could be structural, it could be hypersonic related materials, it could be thermal materials, it could be lighter weight materials, it could be any number of material properties that could be of interest. And the group that falls underneath is what we call, it's in our enabling technologies lane. So materials fits under enabling technologies at Raytheon.
All right, I'd like to address a question from David P. In its repost. Are there any access points or directives where can I find out who I can talk to submit or receive grant funding on a classified level, secret or even TSSCI technology my company has developed? Again, SBIR, STTR proposals submitted and worked are always unclassed. CUI is what they're when they go into the DSIP. When you get into the secret or top secret level of the work, that's usually post award. Reason being is that we don't have a repository to house. We had not developed a repository to house secret proposals. Not that we can't, because we're doing that for the due diligence process. But more importantly, how does the company submit that? You don't have access to that. Unless you have a DD-254 and you have a CAD card, you can submit it. There's really no way for you to actually submit it. So we typically don't accept classified phase 1 or phase 2 proposals. The program or TPOC will try to we'll try to dumb it down, for lack of a better term. And if and when you get awarded a phase 2, that's when the classification information will flow. So it looks like we are.
I think we're getting pushed out.
We are getting pushed out. So I'd like to thank all 100, almost 200 guests that have joined today. I hope this was informative. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank Paul, Alf, Craig, and Terrell, as always, for your exceptional knowledge and foresight of working with your companies. I'm sure everyone learned a lot. And I look forward to working with you guys again in the future. Any parting words?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate the participation for everyone who chimed in the chat. And thanks again to the gentlemen, the panelists, and thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Good to see you guys. If not in person, at least your faces that big.